The first paid DLC pack for Le Mans Ultimate has just been released, but there are people within the community and the player base asking the question, why now? Why are they releasing paid DLC packs whilst the game is still within early access and is yet to hit version 1.0? Well, being a sim racing game developer myself, I thought I'd be able to draw on my own industry experience and give my own thoughts and assumptions as to what those reasons may actually be. Now, just for clarification, I do not work for Studio 397 or Motorsport Games. I have no inside knowledge or any sort of affiliation with either of the two. I'm just drawing on my own experience, having been a game designer for Slightly Mad Studios, working on Project Cars 2, Project Cars 3, and a unofficially unannounced, unreleased Project Cars title that obviously got shut down when EA'd the studio. Since then, I have been working at another studio within the sim racing space, working on a title that is yet to be announced. Info to come on that in the future. So whilst my thoughts and assumptions here in this video and the things that I'll be explaining may not be 100% factually true to this specific situation, hopefully they should give some educational purpose and a little bit of an explanation as to what sort of thought processes go into these sort of decisions and situations within the games industry. So this first DLC pack actually in question contains 3 pieces of content. The 2024 version of Imola, which has been laser scanned and faithfully recreated within the sim, and 2 2024 cars for the hypercar class. We got the Lamborghini SC63 LMDH car and the 2024 version of the Peugeot 9X8 hypercar. As you can see, prices are there on the screen, and for me personally, I think this pack is priced very, very well. £10 for 2 cars and 1 track, all of which are very, very high quality, very much enjoyable, with the 2024 version of Imola being probably the best version of Imola that I've experienced in any racing sim so far to date. Is definitely a very, very good starting point for this DLC. This is the first of 4 DLC packs scheduled for this year. You can purchase them individually, or you can choose to purchase them via the 2024 Season Pass. This is priced in at £40 or €47 or $49 depending on your region, and will save you about 25% compared to purchasing the packs individually. So from this we can tell that each of the 4 individual DLC packs will be priced differently, most likely depending on the amount of content or the type of content that is within them. We know that the first 2 packs, this one and also the next that is due to be released, feature the hypercar cars, and then the last 2 packs coming later in the year will be focused on the GT3 cars. There are also 3 other circuits that form the 2024 WEC calendar that are not here in Le Mans Ultimate. These are Qatar, Sao Paulo and Circuit of the Americas. My prediction is that they're going to spread each of these 3 circuits across the 3 remaining DLC releases. So as this DLC and Season Pass is all based on 2024 content, that leads me to my first theory as to why we are now seeing DLC content prior to the game's full actual release and its exit from early access. Going back earlier in time in the game's development cycle, Studio 397 would have met up with Motorsport Games to discuss and establish a plan for the release of Le Mans Ultimate. What content is featured within that version 1.0 release, what game modes, what features, all that sort of stuff will have been worked out by the higher ups from both parties. Now, we know that for whatever reason they haven't quite met those targets. They've held back various different features and game modes from the player base from the game in order to continue to work on those, improve the quality of them, and possibly even change slight direction within those game modes based off of player feedback that they're getting during this early access period. However, content-wise, it has all been there from day one of early access release, and by content I mean the tracks, cars and car liveries. They've been there for the 2023 season since the early access release back in February, prior to the start of the real-world 2024 WEC season. This is what I believe they're aiming for content-wise for version 1.0, having all of the 2023 cars, tracks and liveries. Any new cars or tracks that came in the 2024 and subsequent seasons will therefore have been scheduled as DLC releases, so they're effectively just following their development plan that they will have established probably a year and a half ago. So once those vehicle and environment artist teams had finished working on their 2023 content and they got all the references and information data that they had gathered for the 2024 stuff, they could then begin work on producing that. The order in which they do so will vary depending on the data references when it comes in, how good that reference data actually is and whether they can actually begin working on it, and also any licensing agreements or release scheduling agreements. It's the most logical thing for them to do from a resource point of view, as you don't want your vehicle art and your own track or environment artists just sat around twiddling their thumbs waiting for the rest of the development teams to catch up to that version 1.0 target. As they are artists producing 3D models, 3D worlds, they'll probably have very little programming knowledge beyond what they need to know in order to get their content that they are making actually into the game and working. You therefore won't get them, or any other developers within the team for instance, hopping over to other areas of game development. It's not like a vehicle artist will produce a car, then go ahead and do all the physics for it, then all the audio for it, then go over and do a little bit of game design, then do some game UI artist code, and then some engine code and other programming, creating game modes and all that sort of thing. It just doesn't work like that when you're working on these sort of titles. The only time it does is when you're on very, very small indie teams and there's only a few of you actually working on the game's development. Once you kind of get up to what the majority of sim racing titles are, and larger teams up to full-blown AAA studios, you tend to stick within the department that you're actually working on and only focusing on work and fixing bugs within that specific area of development that you're working on. So yeah, artists are not going to be going over and fixing engine code bugs or audio bugs or anything like that. It just doesn't happen. Obviously there are exceptions. There are a few people who are extremely talented and talented in multiple different areas of game development and have that knowledge, but yeah, it's pretty far and few between. The final thing, and this of course is going to be a biggie, it is money. We all know the financial struggles that motorsport games have endured over the last couple of years. It's been pretty well documented, but they have finally got a game out into the wild for us to enjoy. Yes, it's in early access. No, it's not the full version 1.0 release that we were expecting prior to their announcement earlier on in 2024 before the February release of Le Mans Ultimate, but at least it is out there. At least players can enjoy it. And fundamentally, when it is working, it is a good sim. Yes, there are still bugs, and yes, there are still performance issues, even which I am suffering myself as well. I am hoping that Studio 397 will continue to resolve these issues and improve the performance further over the coming weeks and months, as they have been since the early access release, pushing out numerous patches. I hope that work does continue on, but there hasn't been any big major updates with any big major features or any new game modes that have been released to Le Mans Ultimate that has warranted a price increase in the purchase price of the game. It is still priced at £25 like it was back on day one of early access. The price hasn't changed. So once a player has purchased Le Mans Ultimate, there is no other way for them to make any money. They have to purely rely on new players. The next best thing that they could do after that is release DLC content. So bringing in a little bit of extra money by bringing out the first DLC content or releasing the season pass as they have done, especially if that content is there ready to go, will allow them to continue to survive and allow them to continue to develop the project even further and get those game modes up to spec to be then fully released and then warrant a actual price increase in the overall game price itself. As much as players hate it, game development is a business at the end of the day, and money is a big factor in driving a lot of these sort of decisions. So yes, it is a little bit of a cash grab, but then again, every single DLC for every game title, and every game title for that matter, is there to make money for a business at the end of the day. Naturally, players just want the game to be as great and as fun as it possibly can be, and us as developers want to provide that for the players. We want to give you a great gaming experience and immerse you within a creative world, or provide that accurate simulation experience. It's completely up to you as to how you feel after this video, whether your opinion's changed or whether your opinion's still very much the same as it was before watching it, but hopefully you appreciated it nonetheless. If you've got any other comments or questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. But until the next time, have fun, stay safe, and take care.